How you all doing? This is Latif Tariq, aka the Black Sufi. I am in St. Louis, Senegal. I'm walking along the beach. It's an absolutely beautiful beach. Along with walking on the beach, it's a beautiful beach, but at the same time, I recognize the impact that the world pollution has on the beach. As you all can see as I turn my camera around, the pollution that you see in terms of what wash up on shore. Part of that has to do with other countries coming along the African coast and other coasts of developing countries and dumping their trash. And their trash ends up on the beautiful beaches around the world. Not just Africa, but along the other coastal countries. So this really has put me in a different place in terms of what I can do when I get back home to Chesapeake, Virginia, and living in the United States. And while I'm walking, I'm also collecting seashells for myself, my daughter, and other people who like to, who like to have natural, organic artifacts, resources when they travel. So I've collected seashells in Ghana. I've collected things like this in Ethiopia, and I just kind of keep them and use them for small decorative projects. But getting back to the beach, the coastline is beautiful. It's not like the manufacturing of our beaches in America, where beaches have been made to at least to try to be as straight as possible, or the beaches such as Virginia Beach, Virginia. If you go there, they used to have sand dunes, and they no longer have sand dunes, which is the sand dunes that actually help to protect the beach from beach erosion. All right, they lose a lot of sand per year due to the type of hurricanes and storms that we have. But this is a very nice day. The sun has kind of gone under the undercast. It was very sunny and hot earlier. Now it is right about maybe about 75 degrees. I love listening to the roar of the water. It puts me in a meditative state. I've been walking for a minute now, so I'm going to show you the coastline I've been walking down. So that's the coastline right there that I've been walking down, and you can see the water. The tide, I can't tell if the tide is coming in or if the tide is going out, but one thing that I do know for sure, that it is probably a very, very strong undercurrent. So I would not suggest that you go swimming in these waters by yourself. I will go to a more appropriate swimming area where you could be monitored or have friends. And if you're really not a strong swimmer, I would not suggest getting deep into the water. I can't tell you what the impact of what the riptide may be. I think that this beach here has tremendous potential. I mean, this beach has tremendous potential. One of the things that is happening in Senegal, especially from Dakar, which is pretty much the center to the outer areas, such as St. Louis, will be future development, and along with that development, developing what would be tourist attractions, because these beaches could really attract people from around the world once they're able to put the proper infrastructure in place. Getting back though so let me show you the type of pollution that I'm looking at. All right, just found me another beautiful seashell here that I want to keep, But so now, in the state of Virginia, we have a choice of whether really not all the stores even give you a choice of paper bags anymore. So for a long time growing up, I'm now 50 years old, but for a long time growing up, we certainly had paper bags to put our groceries in. Then at some point in time, we switched over to plastic bags. Now very few stores give you a choice between paper or plastic. It's usually plastic. I am going to cut down on my plastic consumption in terms of water. I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna think about how I can improve my filtration system on the water that I get from the municipal connection, and thinking about the best filter that I can use to filter that water, because I already make my own water per se, right? I use bottled water, spring water. I have mason jars. Inside of those mason jars, I usually like to make good quality water by putting cucumbers, lemons, thyme, mint. I often put a little turmeric, a little cayenne pepper in it, and that's the water that I drink. I put it in the refrigerator, and I have water that eventually will be very high in potassium and some of the other minerals that I actually need. Right, so that's one of the things we think about. I also make my own beet juice. You buy beets, you boil the beets, you use that water. I also cut the beets up, put them in the bottom of the mason jars, right? I put a little raw brown sugar in there, and that's my water. Okay, so how can we reduce our pollution blueprint where we are on the planet? Also, I want to do a little bit more research about where the United States trash actually goes to. How does the United States as a country get rid of a lot of the manufactured bags and plastic and foam and all of those things? What do they do with it? As you can see on this beach right here, I mean, you can, if you wanted to actually scavenge in terms of things you may need, because you find buckets up here. Some of the things are actually can be reusable, recycled, because they're buckets, and there's just all types of things that people probably can still use if you look at the beaches, because what you're looking at is not only the beach, but we are somewhat in an Arab desert type place. So I'm gonna walk closer to where the dunes are and turn my back towards so you can see. So you see that? All of that vegetation, a lot of that vegetation is also catching the pollution and the nets of the fishermen. The nets that the fishermen use and the ropes that the fishermen use as well, like this tree here, right? You can see this tree here, okay? You see all types of pollutants and bottle caps and aerosol can caps, aerosol cans, all of these things on the beach. And then I think about the products that are now coming in to Senegal, and as these new products come from America, China, other places in the world, just like we go to our supermarkets, they have those supermarkets. What is the public or national or local policies for trash? You know, here's a interesting, I guess someone here must been on the beach at some time trying to, or maybe this washed up on the beach. I don't know, right? But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna show it to you so that way you can see it, okay? But, you know, it looked like this may have washed up on the beach at one time, all right? See this right here? And that's what I mean about pollution, because the beach that I'm on is actually kind of like the area I'm in is kind of like a peninsula. So you're gonna have on one side, this is the Atlantic Ocean, and then if you can see the water opposite of that, that is a natural river that actually split the land that I'm on. So you can see how close the pollution that may even come from the Atlantic Ocean can also be swept over into that river. That's the river that the fisherman community uses. They pull a lot of fish out of the waters of Africa. That river that I was just pointing towards, they pull a lot of catfish out of that water. A lot of the staple diets here in Senegal involves fish, both fried fish, steamed fish, stewed fish, and broiled type fish. So, you know, other than this pollution on the beach, this is a great experience, just walking down the beach, listening to the roar of the water in a meditative type state, and just think about whatever you need to think about. I'm gonna see if I can get a little closer to the other side, because you can actually see the boats of the fishermen, right? They're probably coming back in. The fishermen usually get up very early in the morning. They usually get up about 3 or 4 in the morning, go out, catch their fish, come back, package their fish, and then you can see lines of trucks waiting to take this fish to the various markets throughout Senegal. Right, so that's the process. And the fishermen, I think, are of the Bamara ethnic group. And they've been fishing for, you know, centuries now. Right, that is their trade, that is their craft. And to some degree, it could be their caste, right? Caste not necessarily being a negative connotation, but one of, this is what my father taught me, and he learned it from his father, and he learned it from his father, and his father, and his father, etc. Right? So this is the geographic area of St. Louis, Senegal, and I'll talk about a little bit later how St. Louis was also one of the main slave deportation points in Senegambia. Right? A lot of people make a lot of claims of Gorée Island, but Gorée Island was not the bigger place than St. Louis. okay? And then as you see, as I get further and further away from the beach itself, right, coming back to the interior here, you see less and less pollution. So I'm kind of like on a trek, and this trek was just simply walking down the beach, collecting seashells, making an observation of the seashore, listening to the water, enjoying my stay in Africa, right? Senegal, okay? Which has been a very, very good experience. It's also been very good for my professional development as a college professor, one of Africana studies, African diasporic studies. It gives me better insight into the colonial period in terms of the terrain that we're looking at here and why it made it possible in terms of Europeans to access Senegal due to the sea commerce, the maritime culture at that particular time, right? So, you know, it's not just that of a vacation at all. This is certainly of learning from the people of today who represented the various ethnic groups that ended up in the Americas. All right. So the fishermen boats are now gone. Maybe some will come back past. I'm still walking closer to the water. Maybe, oh, here's some. So by the time I get there, you'll see some. And when I'm talking about how that river is right on the other side. So you end up with fresh water on one side, salt water on another side. All right. And I can actually walk this same shoreline back down to where I'm staying, which is a different story in itself because this is the area of the Sonar women. If you want to read about a very interesting story of the Sonar women, then look them up. I'm going to talk about them in a different video, but I don't really want to talk about them right now because I'm still processing who they were, their impact of capturing and enslaving Africans, and then the wealth that they live off today from the trade. Right, so I'm gonna turn my camera around so you can see the boats. All right, so you see where the birds are flying, and you always see boats passing. These are the indigenous boats here of the people who live in this region, who are considered to be some of the first inhabitants of this region. This is actually a river now, all right? If you're from the East Coast of the United States, what we call brackish water, where fresh water and salt water meet, this is kind of what we are looking at, but you can certainly see the indigenous boats. And they are fishermen. They make these boats. I'm gonna turn around in front of the camera so you can see them. Let me locate them. All right, let's see here. All right, so can I see my fishermen people? It's hard to see All right, I can't see them in my camera. I can't turn my camera around, but those are the indigenous boats that they actually, make by hand with their indigenous tools. They don't need much to make these boats, right? And they're all different sizes. Some of them are very, very, very big. Let me see. All right, some of those boats have engines and some of them do not. But, what's very interesting is that I see them very clearly, but I cannot detect them on camera at all. At all. You would think that they would be passing like directly behind me, but I can't see them on the camera, which is quite amazing. Okay? Quite amazing. Quite amazing. I turn around, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 boats with 2 other boats coming in the rear. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see 7 boats and no boats on camera. I'm gonna have to process that. That's very, very, very interesting that they're not showing up at all. At all. Let me see if I turn around and take a picture. I can't explain it, but this is the body of water that I'm talking about here. And if these boats show up on camera, they show up. If not, all I can do is tell you that I'm looking at them. They're beautiful. Some of the boats have engines to them and some of them do not. All right, so if you come to Senegal and you want to come to see how those who live near this side of their coast that come to St. Louis. So the same way I sign on, I sign off. This is Latif Tariq, the Black Sufi, talking to you from St. Louis, Senegal.